Good morning and welcome back to Minds Over Magic, the podcast where psychology meets romantasy. I'm Katya, a romantasy reader.
And I'm Catherine, your resident psychologist and psychotherapist.
Today we are analysing chapters 26 to 30 of Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. And we finally have a breakthrough. Xaden and Violet are moving forward. Violet's squad now finally knows the truth about Venin, and the first years made it through threshing. So loads to be happy about.
And from a psychological perspective, we're looking how people deal with uncertainty in relationships, how we try to protect ourselves, sometimes at the cost of connection, and how quickly comparison and insecurity can creep in.
A quick reminder, this podcast is intended for mature audiences. Minds Over Magic may include discussion of adult themes, strong language, violence, and sexually explicit content, especially as they relate to the romantasy novels we cover. Listener discretion is advised.
And as per usual, Katya is going to give us a recap of the chapters we are discussing today.
All right, let's do it. Chapter 26. If seeing Jack freaking Barlow alive and well wasn't enough, Violet gets news that Samara was attacked the night before by 3 drifts of griffins. Professor Deveris says that although no riders were killed during the attack, one rider was severely wounded. Violet realizes it was, in fact, Xaden. Her emotions mix with Tairn's. Unable to shield from him, she runs into the courtyard, grabbing Bodhi's jacket on the way, and flies to Samara with Tairn. Chapter 27. What was that? Chapter 27. Violet arrives in Samara later that day, finding the outpost marked by battle, masonry chunks, scorch marks on the walls. However, Xaden seems perfectly fine, sparring with Garrick. Violet is furious with herself because she let Tairn override her emotions and didn't wait to get more information about the attack and Xaden's condition. Xaden, however, is very concerned about whose flight jacket she's wearing. We love jealous Xaden. Anyway, he helps Violet put her shields up and push Tairn out, though by that time, Tairn has already come down significantly. Xaden tells Violet that he would have done exactly the same thing if he thought she was in danger. He shows her a massive mended scar that runs from his bicep to his neck, confirming that he was indeed severely wounded and almost lost his arm. They kiss, and Violet wants to take things further. When Xaden tries to stop her by telling her that he needs those 3 words, she challenges him to take a chance, risk his heart, and sleep with her without knowing how she feels. They then proceed to have ordinary, boring sex. I don't even know if Violet enjoyed it that much, really. Okay, I'm joking. Of course it was mind-blowing. It was a long drive and slamming home and unraveling involved. Though, maybe it wasn't that good, because afterwards Violet would rather go and meet with Griffin Flyers than have another go with Xaden. Okay, I'm joking. Chapter 28. And then we meet Xaden's ex. And she seems like a bitch. And yes, you guessed it right. She's one of my favorite characters. I will take a wild guess here and say that in today's segment, Who Needs Therapy? It will be me. Anyway, Xaden and Violet fly to drop off the daggers and meet with Serena, her sister Catriona, aka the ex, and a bunch of other flyers. Xaden is not happy. It turns out the reason he was wounded is because he let a flyer get too close, since he wasn't sure if it was Serena or Cat, and he didn't want to hurt them. Xaden insists that Basgaeth Woods have to stay intact because they are protecting the hatching grounds in Navarre from the Venin, but Cat thinks he just doesn't care and is happy to let them die. Xaden confirms that he can't save everyone and that somebody will die in this war with the Venin. Before the flyers leave, Catriona says that Xaden has what Viscount Takaris wants in order to get the luminary from him. Chapter 29. Violet is feeling a little jealous on the flight back to Samara, but she's more curious about what Viscount Takaris wants in exchange for the luminary. Turns out all Takaris wants is to see Violet, the first lightning wielding like forever, wield, and then they can head back home with the luminary. But Xaden doesn't trust him. He gives Violet one of the alloy-hilted daggers that can kill Venin to make sure she's always protected. Violet spends the rest of the night updating Xaden on everything at Basgaeth. Then Violet is back at Basgaeth, and Varish is already waiting for her by her door. He demands her back for a search. Then Xaden's flight jacket, and Violet's heart drops because the alloy-hilted dagger is in that jacket. Rhiannon saves Violet's life by summoning the dagger into her room, and Professor Coyote shows up to inform Varish that Panchak has agreed there should be no punishment for Violet, as even senior riders can't always shield themselves from their dragons. Once Violet's alone, Rhiannon pulls her into her room, where she has been studying with Riddick and Sawyer, and demands to know what's going on, and Violet tells them the truth. Chapter 30. Violet tells them everything. Well, apart from Arisha and Brennan, she expects them to be annoyed with her, even shut her out, but they don't. Well, Riddick is a little bit annoyed, but they all want to help, and they plan to start by reading all the books Jasenia found on the first 6 in the woods. But then Riddick stuns everybody by saying that there are journals of the first 6 hidden in sub-level vault in the archives. She learned that during their heist in Lilith's office last year. But Jasenia knows nothing about the sub-level vault, and while she investigates, the squad focuses on reading whatever books she manages to get for them. In the meantime, leadership goes out of their way to keep Violet and Xaden apart. They keep missing each other every weekend for the next 4 weeks due to random changes in their schedules. And then it's Threshing Day, and it seems like all the first years under Rhiannon's command bond with dragons, including Arik and Sloane. Then they get news from Jasenia. She found the vault. Riddick goes to meet her, while Violet goes to take over Aya's watch by the burn pit. When she gets there, they are attacked by infantry cadets who have been paid by Colonel Atus. Aya is killed, and Violet is left dangling from the tower when her attacker suddenly gets a knife through his spine. So, Catherine, what are your first impressions of these chapters? Who do you think saved Violet at the end of chapter 30?
I have no idea. No, it could be anyone at this point. I mean, it could be anybody. However, what stands out for me in these chapters is some emotional intensity happening. I love that she finally told her friends, and their response was a little bit more positive than she thought, which was lovely. I think there's a lot of intensity, like emotional intensity happening beneath the surface. So on the outside, there's things progressing and truth is shared, relationships are moving forward. But internally, Violet and Xaden are still operating from a place of protection rather than openness. So that creates this kind of real interesting tension because connection is increasing, but also is emotional risk. So that's important to know. And I think more so rather than who saved Violet was not necessarily who did it, but the moment it represents, because she's literally hanging. Physically vulnerable, and someone intervenes, and it mirrors how often she's caught between independence and needing others, and that dynamic just keeps showing up for her.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. That's a good metaphor as well. Look at you.
Hanging off the cliff.
Absolutely agree with you that, you know, she gets this, in her view, kind of generous reaction from her squad mates, right? And like the treatment that she gave Xaden for hiding secrets. She expects them to treat her the same way she treats Xaden. But, you know, they're nicer people, Violet. Anyway, I find it funny how Violet and Xaden are finally getting somewhere, and then Rebecca throws Catriona at them. Thing is that I usually dislike jealous exes in books. It always feels a bit, you know, cheap. Like, oh God, like we have another one of those. But I don't want to give anything away. I just want to say that Catriona is much more than that. And I can't wait until we get more of her to unpack her bitchy character. Anyway.
Yeah, there's always more.
Sometimes there really isn't. But not in this case. I mean, if we were talking about books. Anyway. Catriona definitely stirs something in Violet. Like, I think Violet says, it's either jealousy or some kind of anxiety or insecurity. But Tairn here reminds her, not a single dragon chose her. You were selected by 2. Pull yourself together. I love this. Like, to me, out of all this, like in all this stretch of chapters, this is the moment when I was like, oh, because I think we all have this metaphorical dragons in our lives. Like, but we keep forgetting about it. And I mean, Is Violet better than Catriona because of the dragons? No. But she is amazing in her own way, as we all are. And we should never forget that. And that's my little pep talk of the day. Now on to the questions. Why do we sometimes forget about our strengths and focus on where we are lacking? Why do we forget everything we are and focus on the things we're not?
Oh, that's such a human question, right? It's a human thing. We don't evaluate ourselves objectively. We evaluate ourselves relationally. So it's usually in relation to others or society. The moment someone enters the picture who represents something we feel that we lack, our brain zooms in on that gap. So it's kind of a threat response, not a physical threat, but a relational threat. So everyone has something that they want to fix or they feel, threatened because no one's perfect. But our brain is wired to prioritize that gap over stability. So Violet doesn't forget her strengths, but they disappear. She forgets them because something activates a comparison point, and suddenly one perceived deficiency outweighs 100 realities about who she is. It happens in life all the time. It happens also when you've broken up with someone and then there was someone else, and then you think, well, what does she have that I don't have? A lot of people or men say that too. What does he have that I don't have? And it has nothing to do with what you have or you don't have. It has everything to do with the relationship that they have.
So does this get then much stronger in romantic relationships or not necessarily?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Romantic relationships amplify that. So almost more than anything else, because now it's not just who am I? It's am I enough? Am I enough for you? And that activates these attachment systems and it brings in fear of loss and rejection and fear of replacement. And so comparison becomes sharper and faster and often more irrational. So what Violet is experiencing is an immaturity. It's that attachment activation.
What's attachment activation?
Attachment activation refers to what happens inside of us emotionally, cognitively, and even physiologically when our attachment system gets triggered. So at its core, it comes from attachment theory, which explains how we seek safety and connection and security in relationships. So what activation actually means is that our attachment system is always there in the background, but if it becomes activated when something feels uncertain or threatening or emotionally significant in a relationship, we think of it like as an alarm signal or as an alarm going off. So common things that trigger it is someone pulling away or not getting a text back from someone when we text them, or conflict, tension, feeling misunderstood or rejected, unpredictability in a relationship, finding someone else's ex or meeting someone else's ex, not realizing that they're their ex or something, increased intimacy. So even closeness can trigger it. And then we have these emotional responses: anxiety, fear, panic, sensitivity, longing for closeness. And then our thought patterns get activated. So do they still care about me? Did I do something wrong? Is something wrong with me? Can I rely on them? Can I still trust them? And then our behaviors start acting out, where our attachment styles show up clearly as anxious attachment, reaching out more, seeking reassurance, overthinking, or avoidant attachment, pulling away, shutting down, minimizing. And then there's secure attachment, which is noticing the feeling and communicating the needs clearly. And that is so important, in relationships. And when you've experienced it in yourself, it's such a relief. And why it matters so much is attachment activation isn't a flaw. It's a survival system. It's your nervous system saying, am I safe in this relationship? But here's the key. The strategies we use to feel safe, like clinging or withdrawing or testing, can sometimes create the very disconnection that we fear. So it's important that activation says more about our past relationship experiences rather than the current situation. So the intensity of the reaction isn't equal to the size of that current problem sometimes. So more grounded way to think about it is, why am I reacting like this? what is my attachment system trying to protect me from right now? And that moves us, it shifts us from that reactivity to curiosity and then to regulation.
One of the emotions she's describing is jealousy. So is jealousy really about the other person, or is it about what they represent?
Jealousy is rarely about the other person. It's really about what they symbolize. So Catriona isn't just an ex. She represents history, familiarity, a version of Xaden that Violet wasn't a part of. So psychologically, the past feels threatening because it's unchangeable. You can compete with the present, but you can't rewrite the past. So jealousy often isn't, I'm afraid of them. It's, I'm afraid of what they mean about me. What does this mean? You know, you hold on to the meaning of what it represented.
Story time. A few years ago, I was sent on a project to a small mine in town, and I worked in the client's office there. And there was a secretary. It was a sweet, sweet girl. She was very jealous. Like, and she always complained about her boyfriend and some girls. I can't even remember what the connection was there between. Are they just random girls or exes? And I'm not sure. And and she was very sweet because you could clearly see when she was frustrated. And one day I walked in there and she was huffing and puffing about something. And I was very young myself at that point, so I have no idea where this came from. But I was like, do you think you're worse than them? And she goes like, no, of course not. And she was like exasperated, you know, and like, and then like next second she's like, oh.
You walked her into a trap, didn't you?
And it just like, but she let go at that moment. You know, she was so tense, and then she just relaxed, and there was a smile on her face, you know. And a few days later, maybe next day, maybe I can't remember now, but she did say thank you. She said, "Thank you so much for saying that." And okay, granted, I don't know how long it lasted. I'm pretty sure at that point she went back, but it did that kind of the dragon thing, you know, like click. It is just
like. Sorry. Get it together. Look at what you have. Like that's, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I have spent many, 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 many years teaching and trying to learn my own value and teaching others their value. Because when you realize how valuable you are in real life, in real time, you tend to walk away, or you tend to understand relationships differently. And then you don't get reactive when others act a fool, you know, or you don't, that doesn't happen. You might get jealous, you might be insecure, and, you know, it's fleeting, but when relationships end, you go, okay, didn't work out. Okay, next, thank you, next. You know, you just thank you for that time. And this obviously wasn't the good fit, you know, and sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't. Yeah. And that's okay too. It's just, I never judge people about their relationships and how they feel and where they're at that moment. We just try to, like we were just talking about, take the meaning away from what's happening and recognize our value and then move on, or just keep moving. Whether we're moving on or not, we just keep moving. Just keep moving. Keep loving yourself. Keep, you know.
Yeah, and it gives you so much freedom as well, right? Like this way of thinking, you know, you just,
There's no better revenge than to be happy.
Oh.
Guys hate that. They want you to be independent and secure and happy, and that's what attracts them to you. And then when you're anxious and frustrated and upset and mad, they're just like, ugh, you know. But then when you're on your way, then they always come back when you're confident again, because then you don't need them.
Well, yeah, I can see that as well as you're talking about attachment activation, you know, with the reassurances, when women who were, you know, confident and never doubted themselves, and then something happens, whatever, it could be something big, like becoming a mother and giving birth, etc. It could be, I don't know, anything. But then they seek reassurances from their partners, like, am I beautiful? Like, you know, do you still find me attractive? And a lot of men become frustrated. Maybe I'm generalizing here, but I heard stories where the partners will be like, well, where is this coming from? Instead of actually giving the assurances and then just say, of course you're beautiful, of course I love you. Like, knowing that it's just the moment. They just get like Why are you asking? This is silly.
Men would go so far if they would just realize that all they would have to do is say, are you kidding me? You're amazing. You're gorgeous. I can't live without you, and just turning it into something fun and something beautiful.
Yeah. Because it's also the truth. If they say that, it's the truth. They're not making this up. They do feel that way, but for some reason, some of them just like prefer to like.
I think sometimes, and that's just my experience with that, is they're not happy in themselves, so they have to blame someone else or put it on their partner.
Yeah.
Usually, that's what happens. It's hard not to react when you're upset yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect at all in that area. Definitely, when I'm tired, I'm a react.
I think we're all like that. Yeah, sometimes I catch myself. Not always, unfortunately, but sometimes I'm just like, I'm about to snap here because I'm tired and I'm hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, actually, yeah, my husband's very good about catching when I'm hungry.
Aww.
I don't even notice it. Yeah, especially if you're doing like a big Christmas shopping, something, when you're like buying presents for everybody. And at some point he's like, okay, let's go have lunch. I was like, I'm not hungry. He's like, yes, you are.
Oh, see how in tune he is to your hangry?
Maybe he's scared of me.
Let's stop. Honey, let's stop and yeah. He didn't say, honey, you're acting like a bitch or you're starting to get irritated. No, he just said, honey, let's go get some lunch. Just want to spend some quality time with you. You know what I mean? Like, didn't even, some would be different. Some would be like, I'm leaving now. I'm going to go home because I can tell you're getting angry. So then their attachment activation starts setting off alarms and they just leave you.
That's true. Yeah.
I can't handle this right now. Okay. Yeah. All right. You can't handle it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's not like, I know plenty of women, like it's not gender specific at all, who would be like, all right, I'm done here.
I'm walking away.
Yeah, I'm walking away. One of my really, really good friends, she has this, I don't need this. And she's just out.
I actually think people are always like, what do you want? I just want someone that stays, that fights, that always chooses the relationship over themselves.
Yeah.
We choose each other every day. I think I was watching Anne Hathaway talk on one of the shows. I think it was to Drew Barrymore, who I adore. She was saying, they've been married for 11 years, together 15 years. And she just said, we choose each other every day. And I just love that. I think it doesn't mean that it's any easier, but it just means that there's that connection, that commitment to making sure you're choosing the relationship, you're choosing each other.
Yeah.
You're making a choice every day to wake up and do that. And again, not easy, but it makes for good, solid relationships.
Yeah. And it takes time to figure this out. It comes with maturity.
Yeah.
You don't think about it. And then, if you tell that to a, person in their early 20s, they might get it, but they might not.
Some will surprise you. Some people are there. I mean, they're good. Some of these 20-year-olds, they're on fire.
Violet. Maybe. I don't know.
No. Well, Violet's on fire all the time. She's she's setting everything on fire.
Yes. So to going back to Violet and the jealousy thing, why does the past feel so threatening even when it's over?
It's actually something we see quite a lot, especially when experiences have intense relational unresolve almost. So when something significant happens, especially when it involves fear, loss, rejection, or instability, your nervous system stores not just the memory, but the emotional state. So later when something even vaguely reminds you of it, like a tone of voice or a situation or a dynamic, your system reacts as if this is happening now, this is happening again, and you want to stay alert. So if something isn't fully processed emotionally or cognitively, it doesn't really integrate into like a past narrative. So instead, it's more like an open loop. What does that mean about me? Could this happen again? Did I miss something? So our system keeps activating because we're still trying to make sense and protect us from what repeats. So the body remembers, our chest tightens, we might feel uneasy, we might feel dread. And this is often linked to the implicit memory and conditioning of our nervous system, learned pattern, or how it anticipates automatically. So remember, if something in the past comes up and we had a reaction to it previously, it's going to happen again.
Why would exes scare you? Like those relationships are over. Like, why would you be, threatened by them?
You're not threatened by the ex. You're threatened by what they represent. History, comparison, and the question of whether I'm enough or they were enough. It's not about the ex. It's about the part of you that wonders, do they still matter more than me? An ex can feel threatening because they already had access to your partner's vulnerability, and your nervous system reads that as competition for safety and connection. The real trigger isn't that person. It's the unknown. What did they share? What did they mean? Could that still exist? Mm-hmm. And exes trigger comparison, not reality.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about our lovebirds. They clearly both want the same things, but at this point, they seem to be tangled in words and, there's some confusion there. So if you had them in couples therapy right now, what would you tell Violet and Xaden? Do you think they are overcomplicating everything, or am I just being a bit callous here?
Well, they're not actually confused about what they want. They're conflicted about what it's going to cost them. Okay. Obviously, they both want each other.
Yes.
Both of them want connection. Both of them are also protecting themselves from vulnerability. And so if I had them in couples therapy, I'd say you're both asking the other person to go first, basically. Mm-hmm. Xaden wants verbal certainty. Violet wants emotional risk. And they're stuck in that loop. Mm-hmm. I'll open if you open. So it's not about overcomplication. It's just about mutual self-protection. Mm-hmm. They just both need to be vulnerable and tell each other what they want. And it's really about being on the same page, Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't get together because they're not on the same page, but they just need to be vulnerable with each other and talk it out.
So they're establishing these boundaries, right? Like Xaden's with his 3 words, Violet is, all other, like I think she is confused because she says one thing and Xaden's like, well, you said that. She's like, oh crap, yes, I did say that. Like it's almost like she's just tangled in that. So when do boundaries become emotional avoidance? And are Violet and Xaden protecting themselves or preventing intimacy?
Well, that's an important distinction between boundaries and emotional avoidance, because boundaries create this clarity and safety, whereas avoidance creates distance and ambiguity. So the difference is intention. So if a boundary helps you stay present and connected, it's healthy. If it helps you avoid discomfort or vulnerability, then it becomes avoidance. Mm-hmm. So there's where I think they're telling themselves they're setting boundaries, but emotionally they're just holding back. So it leans more towards avoidance. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's 20, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're trying to figure it out, but I almost feel like they are, I don't want to say making it worse, but they're overcomplicating it.
They definitely are. They're definitely, and vulnerability is scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think the shower sex was almost necessary at this point? Like a way to reassure each other, and get back on the same page? And can physical intimacy become a substitute for emotional clarity?
Yes, I think that's incredibly common, because physical intimacy can regulate anxiety, create closeness, and temporary resolve. It resolves tension. But it gives you a felt sense of connection, even when emotional clarity isn't there. So in that sense, that scene almost functions as reassurance. We're okay. We still want each other, but it doesn't answer the deeper question: are we emotionally safe with each other? So it helps, but it doesn't resolve anything.
Okay. There are a couple of things that made me giggle when I was reading this scene. Like, first of all, Violet, Eva the scribe, chanting "I love you" in her head like my personal codex. Romance is not dead, dear listeners. I mean, this is something Dane probably would have said in a heat of the moment.
I have a hard time believing it because they're so young, and it's hard to believe the sex scene was so amazing and sensual, and just because I just,
I mean, it's all Xaden, right? We have no idea how much
yeah.
experience he has, but you know, he did everything right. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
solid job, Xaden. You
Maybe
did
we
it
need
the
to
way it's
thank his,
supposed to be.
maybe we need to thank his ex for that. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you
done,
very much.
Catriona. Yeah, no, I think Xaden met expectations there. I think it was fine. But another thing that made me laugh is considering that they are in a shower, they're
Yeah.
lucky that the lightning struck outside. I kind of expected some injuries there at that point.
Electrocution.
Exactly.
Oh,
I know. Well,
they're still so cute.
yeah, well, moving on. How amazing did it feel to read that moment where Violet finally comes clean to her squad?
Oh, I loved that moment. I loved it because it challenges that core fear of, if people really know me, will they stay or
Yeah.
will they still love me? And what we see is such a corrective emotional experience.
Yes.
She expects rejection. She expects what she does.
Yes.
And instead, she gets support, like overwhelming support. And that's
Yeah.
how trust is built, not through perfection, but through being known and still accepted.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. If we could all just learn that one little thing.
Yeah. I wonder where Violet learned that. You know, like, why did she even expect it?
Expect what the
That they might shut her out for this.
rejecter, because
Yeah.
that's how she responds.
But why, as in, like, I wonder if she had some previous experience, like in the family, you know, something. Like, I don't know.
Well, her mom's not very emotionally available,
No.
you know, and so they probably kept everything pretty close to their chest. Doesn't sound like a very emotionally available family as far as the parents go, you know.
That's why I really want the prequel. I want Lilith and Ash's story. That is like, that's what I want.
Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that, Rebecca?
A manifest.
Oh yeah, yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah. We get more on Violet's dad in book 3. Like
Okay.
what sort of person he was. You know, but yeah, I want more. Anyway, okay. And last but not least, what I want to discuss today is Xaden saying that he can't save everyone. What do you think of this? Like, is this strength or emotional detachment? Does he really care less about poor Emil, or is he simply accepting his own limits?
I actually think that it's just strength, not necessarily detachment. Because detachment says I don't care. And what Xaden's saying is I care, but I understand my limits. And
Yeah.
that's a very different position psychologically.
Yeah.
I feel like he's moving out of that savior mindset and into some leadership roles and leadership mindsets.
I agree.
And
To
that-
me, he's
yeah.
like speaking like a leader here, not like a hero. You know, hero wants to save everybody.
Yes, but they can't.
No.
I mean, they could try, but
Yeah.
yeah, and that requires tolerating something very difficult. And the reality is that you can't prevent all loss. So I don't think it's necessarily emotional shutdown as it's containment.
Yeah.
It's emotional containment.
Okay, I think this is where we're going to end our discussion for today and move on to our favorite segment. Who needs therapy?
Well, I'm going to say couples therapy is on the books.
Ah, very good.
Both of them, but not because they're dysfunctional, but because they're both operating from protective patterns that make sense in their past, but is now getting kind of in the way of their relationship and actually getting in the way of what they actually want. So not who needs therapy in a critical sense, but growth sense. So they're ready for the next level of emotional work. And it's always good to go to therapy as a couple before the, you know, what hits the fan. You know, that it's better to do some prevention. You know, that saying, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. So
Yeah.
I think it'd be good for them
Yeah.
to talk it out.
Thank you, Catherine. Before we wrap up, let's look at our minds over magic moment this week. Moments that made us feel or stayed with us. What is it for you this week?
For me, it's the moment that Violet tells her squad the truth, probably. Because psychologically, that's the turning point, not the plot of her identity. She moves from isolation to connection, from managing perception, and allows herself to be seen. And those are the moments that actually change people, not the battles, but the risks that we take in being known and being seen for who we really are.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely is one of my top ones as well. I think I'll go for the one I spoke about before when Tairn tells Violet,
Yeah,
reminding her
love
about
that.
her value, and yeah, like pull yourself together. That's
Yeah,
that's brilliant. I love Tairn. I don't know
I
if we
love
don't
that
talk
part too.
enough about Tairn.
Maybe we just need a whole dragon segment.
Should.
Let's deconstruct the dragons.
Yes. Well,
Dragon deconstruction.
I mean, they are hilarious. I think one of my favorite quotes in this book is when Violet tells Brennan that Sigale doesn't like her, but she's growing on her. And Sigale says, yeah, like a tumor.
So rude.
Okay, well, that's it for today. Next episode, we are diving back into Iron Flame and discussing chapters 31 to 34. So 4 chapters next week. And it's time for another heist.
Follow us on Instagram at Mind Over Magic or email us at mindsovermagicpodcast@gmail.com with your questions, comments, or romantasy recs.
Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share with your fellow magic-minded friends. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think about these chapters.
And until next time, keep your mind sharp and your heart open.
Bye-bye!